American pressure on Israel, not Israel, while visiting Israel, and unacceptable to Israel, to the land of Israel.
Welcome to Eyes on Israel. I am Rabbi Pesach Walicki. If you've been with us for previous episodes, you know that one of the running themes on this show is that the media and the Biden administration are lying to you about what is going on in Israel's war against Hamas. Israel is not committing genocide. There is no shortage of humanitarian aid flowing into Gaza. Israel has not caused excessive civilian casualties. They've actually been the lowest in the history of urban warfare. Qatar is not a moderate Arab state. They fund terror and promote anti-Semitism worldwide. There is no rise in violence by Jewish residents of Judea and Samaria against their Arab neighbors, and on the lies go. But of all the lies about Israel, there's one that stands above all the rest, and it's time we talked about it. I'm referring to the claim that there is such a thing as a Palestinian people who are native to a land called Palestine. We can talk all day long about the lies being told about Israel's prosecution of the war, the genocidal aims of Hamas, and the atrocities committed on October 7th, but at the end of the day, are Israelis foreign occupiers who took the land away from the indigenous Palestinian people? If they are, then even if we're appalled by the jihadist aims and tactics of Hamas, isn't there some justice to their claims? From 1300 BC to 135 of the Common Era, the people of Israel, later known as Judeans or Jews, lived in the land of Israel with independent sovereignty on and off during that period, in between invasions by foreign powers. In the 2nd century CE, the Romans finally crushed the last attempt at revolt by the Jews, fully conquering Jerusalem and Judea. The Romans then renamed Judea Palestina, invoking the name of the biblical enemy of Israel, the Philistines, who were already extinct, with the goal of minimizing Jewish identification with the land of Israel. Following the Muslim conquest of Judea in the 7th century, the name Palestine fell into disuse. To illustrate the point, the word Palestine does not appear even once in the Quran. This word only came back into use by the Christian crusaders of the 11th century. Under the Ottoman Empire, which ruled most of what we know today as the Middle East for 400 years, the term Palestine was loosely used to describe everything south of Syria, including what is today Jordan as well as Israel. It should be noted that the local Arab population rejected use of this word, instead referring to the area as southern Syria. The Ottomans ruled over the Middle East from 1517 to 1917. During none of this time, or at any time prior, was there a nation or state that was called Palestine. There was simply no group of people that referred to themselves this way. So next time you hear someone talk about the Palestinian people, ask them to name a single ruler or leader of the Palestinian people from any point in history prior to the 20th century. But don't sit around waiting for the answer. It could be a while. While there are countless artifacts and records that show the extensive Jewish history and continuity in the land of Israel, there's not a single archaeological find that supports the existence of a Palestinian nation or state. Before Jewish development began in the late 19th century, the land was sparsely populated and mostly uncultivated and desolate. To quote the American consul in Jerusalem in 1880, quote, "The population and wealth of Palestine has not increased during the last 40 years," end quote. In 1864, the British consulate reported that Jerusalem's population was only 15,000, more than half of which was Jewish, with the rest split evenly between Muslims and Christians. The truth is that most of the Arabs who call themselves Palestinians do not even have long-term roots in the land that they claim. Official records show an explosion in the Arab population in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Existing records describe mass waves of migration of Arabs from other regions into Palestine due to improved conditions and the availability of work resulting from Jewish settlement and development of the land. During the British Mandate years alone, more than 100,000 Arabs emigrated from neighboring countries, and their many descendants today are considered Palestinians. When the first Congress of Arab Muslim Christian Associations met in Jerusalem in February 1919 to choose representatives for the Paris Peace Conference in the aftermath of the defeat of the Ottomans in World War I, they adopted the following resolution. Quote, "We consider Palestine as part of Arab Syria, as it has never been separated from it at any time. We are connected with it," meaning Syria, "by national, religious, linguistic, natural, economic, and geographical bonds," end quote. The King Crane Commission, tasked in Paris with investigating the situation in the formerly Ottoman-controlled territories, reported that Christian and Muslim Arabs opposed any plan to create a country called Palestine because it was viewed as recognition of Zionist claims. After these conferences and commissions trying to decide what to do with the previously Ottoman-controlled territories, on July 24, 1922, the League of Nations entrusted Great Britain with the mandate for Palestine. Recognizing, quote, "the historical connection of the Jewish people with Palestine," end quote, Great Britain was called upon to facilitate the establishment of a Jewish national home there. Shortly afterward, in September 1922, the League of Nations and Great Britain decided that the goal of setting up a Jewish national home would not apply to the area east of the Jordan River, which constituted 3/4 of the territory included in the Palestine Mandate. This original division of the land allocated as Palestine led to the creation of the Kingdom of Jordan, a country that had never existed before, whose inhabitants were local Arabs, what today would be called Palestinians. This partition of mandatory Palestine was the original two-state solution. Jordan is the original Arab-Palestinian state. It should be noted that most of the current Arab countries and national identities in this region never existed prior to the 20th century. Arab lands were loosely controlled by foreign authorities from the time of the Romans. Any borders between different areas were basically non-existent. Populations migrated based on where there was work and relative peace. There was no Iraqi people, no Jordanian people, no Syrian people. These nationalities and borders exist today only as the result of agreements made between Western nations who were carving up the region after World War I. To illustrate the point, in 1937, a local Arab leader, Ani Bey Abdul Hadi, told the British Peel Commission, quote, "There is no such country as Palestine. Palestine is a term the Zionists invented. There is no Palestine in the Bible. Our country was for centuries part of Syria," end quote. Or consider the words of Arab-American historian, Princeton University professor Philip Heaty, who testified before the Anglo-American Committee in 1946 that, quote, "There is no such thing as Palestine in history, absolutely not," end quote. And in a statement to the General Assembly in May 1947, the representative of the Arab Higher Committee, representing the Arabs of Palestine to the United Nations, stated that Palestine was part of the province of Syria and that the Arabs of Palestine did not comprise a separate political entity. The bottom line is this: there is no such thing as a Palestinian people. There never was any such nation. The entire hoax of Palestinian national identity was created for one reason: to discredit and destroy the State of Israel. The Arabs only started using the term Palestinian after the State of Israel was founded as a way of laying claim to the land. One final point. You've probably been told that the conflict in Israel is about the, quote, occupied territories of Judea and Samaria, called the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. But here's the problem. Land can be called occupied only if it's the territory of one sovereign country that is occupied by another. When Israel captured Judea, Samaria, and Gaza in 1967, who did they take them from? Egypt controlled Gaza from 1948 to 1967, but laid no claim to the territory. In fact, when Israel tried to get Egypt to take Gaza in the 1979 peace deal, Egypt refused. Before 1948, after World War I, the Gaza Strip was governed by the international community, and before that, by the Ottomans, going back to the 16th century. As for the West Bank, the same story applies, with Jordan ruling the territory from 1948 to 1967, and laying no claim to it today. Because there is no sovereign nation that lays any claim to any of these territories, they are not occupied. There never was any sovereign nation called Palestine, and therefore there is no such thing as Palestinian national territory. Israel did not take land from any other nation, there is no occupation of Palestinian land, and there is nothing illegal about Jewish settlements. These are all lies. It is a hoax. And the saddest part of this hoax is that the greatest victims are the Arabs themselves. We now have multiple generations who have been indoctrinated with a completely fake history and led to believe that Jews have stolen their land. The Muslim Arab leadership who created this grand lie have been using the Palestinian Arabs as pawns in their efforts to destroy the only Jewish state in the world for decades. And that's what this conflict is really about. In the words of Prime Minister Netanyahu, quote, "If the Arabs laid down their weapons, there would be peace and prosperity across the Middle East. And if Israel laid down her weapons, there would be no Israel." Do you long to connect more deeply with the powerful sacred words of the Psalms, to pray and rejoice through the very words that King David uttered to the Almighty? The Israel Bible Book of Psalms Pray Like David edition makes this possible through an ingenious blend of faithful English translation and a complete English transliteration of all 30,000 plus Hebrew words. Don't miss this unique opportunity to pray like David and make his spiritual outpourings your own. Go to praylikedavid.com to buy your copy of the Israel Bible Book of Psalms, Pray Like David edition, today, and gain unparalleled access to the divinely inspired prayers that have uplifted the people of Israel for millennia. We'll be right back with more Eyes on Israel in a moment.